For so many of us, especially if they're cheap, we buy them, use them until they break, and throw them out, with a broken rib or tip that's become detached from the canopy. But for an umbrella repairwoman in Slovenia, they can be fixed almost every time. Maria Lah says she's the only remaining umbrella repairer in the Slovenian capital of Ljubljana. She also says she can fix 98% of the umbrellas brought to her, and doing this runs in her family as she took over the shop her father used to run. Her biggest challenge? The constantly changing designs of the new umbrellas that are sold. But the silver lining? Lah says she's always learning. So what makes a good umbrella? One that wouldn't have to spend a lot of time in her shop. Lots of metal parts and strong ribs made of iron that can bend. It might look ordinary, but she says this one was built to keep the rain off the heads of 3 generations of owners. Welcome to your Thursday edition of The World from A to Z, your non-partisan source for international events coverage. I'm your host, Carl Azuz. Thanks for spending some time with us. As expected, the U.S. Congress has passed and the U.S. President has signed a foreign aid bill worth $95 billion. $61 billion goes to Ukraine as it continues to fight Russia. $26 billion goes to Israel as it continues to fight Hamas, with part of that money designated as aid for Palestinians in Gaza. And $8 billion goes to Taiwan during a time of high tension between the island and nearby China. The U.S. law is controversial, and disagreements over it don't just depend on whether lawmakers are Democrats or Republicans. For instance, while many Republicans supported the additional aid for Ukraine, others opposed the financial assistance, saying there should be a limit to U.S. money there, or that Ukraine aid should continue only if Republicans have some of their other priorities addressed. And while many Democrats supported the additional aid for Israel, others opposed it, thinking there should be a limit to U.S. money there, or they side with Palestinians in the conflict and want more done to support them. Beyond all that, there's the issue of TikTok. The new law requires the owner of the social media application to either sell it to a non-Chinese company or face being banned in America. Lawmakers are concerned its users' personal data could be collected by the Chinese government. The company says it's made efforts to prevent that and that it'll fight the legislation in court. TikTok has 270 days to comply with the law, so no matter what, it's not going away immediately.
For the first time in 14 years, the USDA is reforming school meal standards across the U.S. The changes will be implemented in phases over the next few years.
Children will be eating healthier foods as a result, and we couldn't be more pleased.
Beginning in the 2025-26 school year, the new standards call for certain products, including breakfast cereals, yogurt, and flavored milk, to have specific limits on added sugars. By the 2027-28 school year, added sugars can't make up more than 10% of the total weekly calories for breakfasts and lunches.
Sugars are a source of calories that have very little, no nutritional value. And one can eat food that tastes really, really good that doesn't have to have those added sugars.
The new standards will also limit sodium in future school meals, requiring a 15% cut in sodium in lunches and a 10% cut in sodium in breakfast by the 2027-28 school year. The American Heart Association says the new standards are a step in the right direction.
We feel like this is a path, not the destination. There's a little bit more that can be done on added sugars and lowering salt.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
After these new rules were first proposed last year, the School Nutrition Association, which represents thousands of American school nutrition professionals, said many wouldn't be able to meet the government's new guidelines. Labor shortages, supply chain problems, and increased food prices could be some reasons why. The rules may slightly increase the cost of school meals, and critics say if students don't like the taste of the new options, they could look elsewhere for foods that are less healthy. Government guidelines like these can be changed again down the road by the Biden administration or any other. On this date in world history. This was the date in 1859 when construction began on the Suez Canal in Egypt. The project was overseen by a French diplomat and involved the work of thousands of Egyptian laborers. There were numerous challenges and delays during construction, but when it was finally finished in 1869, the 120-mile-long waterway successfully connected the Red Sea with the Mediterranean. Another engineering marvel opened on this date in 1959. The St. Lawrence Seaway utilizes the St. Lawrence River and allows ships to sail from the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes. Canada and the US teamed up to build it, and it took 5 years to complete. And April 25, 2014 was when the Flint water crisis began. The city of Flint, Michigan tried to save money by changing its water supply from Lake Huron to the Flint River. But the river water wasn't treated for chemicals, and they caused corrosion in Flint's aging pipes that threatened the health of residents. The effects of the crisis reverberate 10 years later.
Word of knowledge. What day of the week is named after the Norse mythological god of storms? Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The Norse god of storms, strength, and thunder was Thor, and Thor's day in Old English became Thursday in modern English.
The days of the week in most languages are named after deities. To understand the English names, we look at the Old English, developed in the early Middle Ages. Sunendage means sun's day, named for the mythological goddess of the sun, Sol. Monendage is moon's day. The moon god Mani is the brother of the sun goddess, and according to Norse mythology, Sol and Mani ride through the sky on horse-drawn chariots. Tiwisdage gets its name from Tyr, the god of war. Wodensdage is named after Woden, or Odin. He's known for being wise, but not always just. Oh, and he only has one eye because he sacrificed the other to gain wisdom. Funrisdage is named after the god of thunder, Thor. Yep, that's the guy with the hammer, Mjolnir. Frigidage after the goddess Frigg. Her name means beloved, and she's the wife of Odin. And Saturnisdage is named for the Roman god Saturn, the god of feasting, agriculture, and the seasons. Saturday is the only day still named for a Roman god, which is ironic since all of the days are named after deities because of the Romans. When Anglo-Saxons and Romans met in the 1st century, the Anglo-Saxons thought, hey, naming days after deities is a great idea. But they didn't want to copy the Romans, so they named the days after their own gods, except Saturday because they had no equivalent to Saturn. The Germanic god Tyr and the Roman god Mars are both gods of war. Woden is comparable to Mercury, and each is often portrayed with a staff and a hat, known for being wanderers. Thor is comparable to either Jupiter or Hercules, and Frigg and Venus are both goddesses of love. A 5th century archbishop advocated for using numbers instead, so Sunday was the first day and so on. Portuguese uses this system. And Celtic languages use a combo of Roman gods and church days because of the strong influence of early Christian missionaries.
Along the shore of the beautiful Lake Michigan, we're sightseeing in the city of Hammond, Indiana. That's where the governors are watching in Miss Hart's class at Morton High School. To the town of West Point, Virginia, at West Point Middle High School, it's great to see Miss Goins' class in the Old Dominion. And we land in Sweet Home, Alabama, where Coach Ramsey's class is online. Big hello to everyone at East Sanford School in Auburn. A worker at a dam in Colorado was about to release water from a reservoir when he noticed something unusual in the spillway. 2 young mountain lions had gone down there and gotten trapped by the high walls. So the worker released the water to see if all cats can swim. No, I'm kidding, totally kidding. He called wildlife officials who were able to get one of the mountain lions out when it held onto a sort of pole attached to a rope. For the other one, officials had to use a catch pole, but this animal too was later released into the woods. True, some wouldn't be lion or kitten if they said they couldn't wait to give them a permanent home, but you can't panther to a wild cat. The cat amount of cost and danger would be roarable to the dearest of those your feline links to, and you won't be left pardoned for trying to cheat of the law, even if your neighbor drives a Jaguar. I'm Carl Azuz. That's the world from A to Z.